combat soaring crime in the 90s, we've decided to bring back the traditional Bobby on the beat, an all too rare sight on Britain's streets today. Unlike modern stick-wielding cops who hide behind riot shields, our old-fashioned Bobby will be patrolling the pages of this magazine on foot, armed with only his authoritative stature and a few words of friendly advice. We'd like you to meet PC Jack Roberts. This week, Jack has a cautionary tale about the evil of drugs, a problem that could be closer to home than you imagine.
Evening all, PC Roberts here. I know what you're thinking. Drugs are someone else's problem, not mine. Your kids would never take drugs. Well, that's exactly what the parents in this house thought. But how wrong they were. Mr. and Mrs. Jones were a decent, respectable, hard-working couple. Their son, Kevin, was a sensible lad who attended a good private school.
I'm off to bed, Mum. I've got exams tomorrow.
Good boy. Have you done your homework?
Yes, of course I have. Night-night.
I'm so glad Kevin is a sensible lad. You read so much about drugs these days.
Kevin wouldn't get mixed up in that, dear. He's not the type.
Kevin's not the type. How many times have we all said that, huh? How well do you know your children? Would you spot the signs if your kids were on drugs?
The following morning.
Is your breakfast alright, Kevin?
Yeah, Mum. It's fair out.
Shortly.
Don't be late for school, Kevin.
Hey, chill out, Mrs. J. I'm in plenty of time.
He's such a good boy, our Kevin. More tea, dear?
Christ, have you seen this water bill? 500 quid. How'd they work that one out?
It must be a computer error. I'll ring them up later.
Okay then, I better hurry or I'll be late for work.
But Mr. Jones was in for another surprise.
Oh no, someone's broken into the car. It was probably a Scottish tramp. No doubt he'll have sold the radio to a fence to raise money to pay for cheap lager.
Perhaps Kevin saw something. I'll contact the school and ask him. Hello, is that Marbley Towers private school? Mrs. Jones here. I wonder if I could speak to my son Kevin.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Jones, but Kevin hasn't been at school today. He's not on drugs, is he?
At last the coin was beginning to drop. The signs had all been there, but Mrs. Jones had failed to spot them. Did you spot the signs? Let's take another look. Did you spot the pop magazine Kevin took to bed? Pop stars blatantly promote the use of drugs, including E, both directly and indirectly, through the hypnotic beats of their music. And what about that water bill, The drug E sends kids raving for hours on end. They wash it down with gallons and gallons of water. How much water do your kids drink? Dad blamed car radio theft on alcoholic Scottish tramps, and 9 times out of 10, he'd be right. But if Kevin was a user, or a junkie, taking E-pills, he'd need to steal to feed his expensive hobby. Of course, the biggest clue of all was Kevin's use of slang, or drug jargon, describing his breakfast as far out, and telling his mother to chill out, were dead giveaways that Kevin was high on ecstasy. Mrs. Jones knew she had to find Kevin, and fast, before he inevitably progressed into harder drugs. Eventually she spotted Kevin buying drugs from a dealer in a playground.
This is good gear. You'll like it.
Hey, far out. Give me some of that shit.
Kevin Jones, what do you think you're doing? And as for you, dealing in death, ruining people's lives, I've got a good mind to beat you black and blue. But I don't want you. You're just a small fish. I want Mr. Big.
The real villains are the Mr. Bigs, the evil drug barons who make millions by importing large quantities of drugs and selling them on. These faceless gangsters wear suits, drive cars, and appear to lead respectable lives. making it impossible for the police to catch them. But they hadn't bargained for Mrs. Jones.
Right, I want the name and address of Mr. Big, or I'll give you a thick ear.
I don't know his name, honest. Oh. Okay. His name is Mr. X. I'm meeting him today at 2 o'clock.
That's more like it. Now we're getting somewhere. Are you alright, Kevin?
Oh, yeah, Mum. Oh, I think I've just had a bad trip.
Come on, it's time to put a stop to this evil drugs trade once and for all.
Mrs. Jones headed straight to the docks, where she knew a deal was going down that lunchtime. At 2 o'clock exactly, a car pulled up, and the deal started to go down.
Have you got the bread?
Yeah, but I want to see the gear first.
Okay, but I've got a shooter. One false move and I'll ventilate you and I'll make you into history.
It's you! You, a drug baron, how could you?
Dad, how could you? I could have OD'd on those drugs.
I can explain. You see, I needed the extra income to pay Kevin's school fees. I wanted you to do well. Pass your exams, get a good job. But now that's all backfired.
I guess we've all been a bit stupid, haven't we? You for selling drugs, Kevin for buying them, and me for failing to spot the telltale signs that something was going on.
I can still pass my exam. It doesn't start till 3. I can still make it.
But haven't you got cold turkey?
I feel turkey, Dad, for having taken drugs, but it's never too late to stop.
You're right, son. Once I've sold these, I'm finishing. There'll be no more drug deals for me.
The Jones were lucky. They were able to win their own battle against drugs. But what about your family? If you think drugs aren't your problem, then think again. And if there's any kids reading this, don't take E. It's not big and it's not clever. Evening all.
Next week, the Viz Bobby on the Beat has a cautionary tale about child prostitution. The end.